Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here. We are going to cover placement in word warm-ups live today. There is a link to the handout in your meeting chat box, so feel free to pull that up. There's also going to be a link to the Word Warm-Ups Live Assessment. So that is another document that will appear in a link form there that you will want to click on to have access to. Today, we're going to walk through the 4 items that you see on your screen. So we're going to start with just a general overview of Word Warm-Ups Live, in case there's some of you who are unfamiliar. Word Warm-Ups Live, of course, is one of the 4 programs within Read Live. After that, we're going to talk about the phonics assessment. And that segment at first is just going to be a real quick introduction, but we're going to come back to it and actually dig into it deeply. So don't worry, after we go through that quick introduction, that's not it. We're going to come back and go more in depth with it. We are going to walk through that phonics assessment with a little interactive activity where you can practice actually scoring the assessment. And then finally, we're going to end with program selection and actual placements. Those are the things that we will cover today. So let's go ahead and begin with that overview of Word Warm-Ups Live and what it does for our students. So we know obviously that some students struggle with becoming fluent readers, and for lots of reasons. Sometimes they're weak in phonemic awareness or phonics. Sometimes they have to slow down because although they can decode, it's not automatic, right? So they have to slow down in order to do that. So we know students need to be able to read both accurately and automatically in order to become fluent readers. So Word Warm-Ups Live is there to reinforce phonemic awareness and phonics. It's there to help build mastery and automaticity in decoding. And of course, that will support fluency development. Most phonics programs teach kids to decode accurately. Well, I certainly hope that all phonics programs teach kids to at least try to teach kids to decode accurately. But just because you can decode accurately doesn't mean you can do it automatically. And so research tells us that we need our students to be able to read accurately and automatically, and that will allow their whole brain then to think about meaning, right? We also know that if students have not developed automaticity in that single word reading by the beginning of 2nd grade, they're at risk for reading failure. So it is a very important thing that we're talking about here with regards to our phonics skills. As I mentioned before, Word Warm-Ups is one of the 4 programs within the online program, which we call Read Live, right? And all of the programs within Read Live use what we call the Read Naturally strategy. And that is a combination of teacher modeling, repeated reading, and progress monitoring. So in Word Warm-Ups Live, we use these strategies to help students become proficient in decoding unfamiliar words, and not just accurately, but with automaticity. So the program is efficient, it's timed, it's mostly independent, but it does require teacher interaction. It is, after all, an intervention. And it provides that systematic instruction in some of the most common phonics patterns. And they're presented in short and sequential steps. Within Word Warm-Ups Live, students have something that we call word list exercises, which gives them a lot of practice in the decoding process. And they get a lot of repetition, which we all know repetition is going to build automaticity in whatever it is that you are doing over and over again. And then, of course, progress monitoring is what motivates the student, right? Because they can see themselves getting better. And finally, there's even some encoding activities. So after students practice reading their decoding skill, then they will practice spelling with some encoding. And finally, there are word lists, exercises, challenges, and reviews, challenges and reviews. And then there's also story exercises where they get to practice reading words and connected text. So now we're going to talk about the different levels. And in your chat box, there will be a link to what we call as the scope and sequence. So you can easily access the different levels that we have and see what is listed for the different skills that are taught within that level. And I'll go through them now. So level 1 is what you would probably imagine is our one syllable level. It's words that are typically taught in first and second grade. Level 1 includes 9 different sections, and they're listed here, starting with letter sounds, short vowels, and so forth. And between those 9 sections, there are 69 different exercises split up between them. So remember, I said there's word list exercises, reviews, challenges. Those are all in the word list category. We also have introductory lessons and then those story exercises. Our level 2 is creatively named level 2 because it's 2-syllable words. It works on compound words, those prefixes, suffixes, open and closed syllables. And those on the right-hand side of your screen, you can see the different sections from A through H that are taught within 8 sections of level 2. And there's 68 exercises that are divided between those 8 exercises. And then our last level is level 3, which is our multisyllabic level. And this level is used with such a huge range of students. There's lots of different phonics programs for those real early skills. There aren't as many when you get into decoding multisyllabic words, and many of our students struggle with it all the way through middle school and even into high school. So what Level 3 does is it allows students to practice chunking the words by syllable and then blending them together. And we know that oftentimes those things sound slightly differently and are different. And so they're allowed to practice the flex vowel sounds, prefixes, open and closed syllables, and connectors. So in that level, that multisyllabic level 3, there are 7 sections with 48 exercises between them. So that's just a real brief overview of what Word Warm-Ups Live is for those of you who may not be real familiar with it. So now what I'm going to do is provide an introduction to that phonics assessment. So in your chat box, the second link that's provided there is where you can find that a link to that phonics assessment. So you can go ahead and pull it up. It also lives in the program that you have, the Read Live account you have, and I'll show you how to access that. But I just want you to know right now we're going to provide an introduction where I'm just going to break apart each of the different sections of the assessment. Then we're going to come back through and go through it more carefully. But I just want you to have a big picture idea first, and then we'll dig in a little more deeply in that second or in the third item on this list. So please note that there's a green circle in the bottom right corner that has a page number. Okay, you will see these green circles with page numbers throughout this slideshow. And I put those there because it feels overwhelming to have a 17-page document. I hate reading instructions. And so this kind of large document with a lot of text can be overwhelming to me. But what I found is very helpful is realizing that a lot of it isn't instruction, it isn't information I need to consume, but rather sections, including the actual assessment and the actual scoring sheet. Okay, so we're going to break it up so it you can see how manageable it is. So first, you can see there's this table of contents I have in red, and I'm sure many of you, if you have gotten as old as I have, you might not be able to read the words in that little red box. So I have written them larger in the green box to the left. So what you're looking at is the table of contents in the green box on this left side, and that's just written larger than what I have circled in red there. Okay. I want you to notice that within the document itself, in the red box, there's all these words in that table of contents section are blue with underlines. And hopefully that indicates to you that that's hyperlinked. So what will happen is when you're in the actual document, electronic document, if you click on one of those blue hyperlinks, it will bring you directly to that section. So it's a really helpful way to navigate. So if you just want to print off the scoring sheet and student copies, you can click on the various sections levels and it will bring you right directly to that spot. Okay, so it's kind of a nice way to navigate. Pages 1 through 4 are just the administration guide. So here you'll find information about which students need phonics intervention, what programs within Read Live are right for each student, and how to make those decisions. So there's also directions for completing the assessment. So we're going to go over this in more depth in just a moment, but for now, I just want you to realize that these first 4 pages are an administration guide for you as an assessment administrator. Okay, so those are the pages that are providing you with information you need to do the assessment as well as make the decisions. The next 2 pages is what we call our level screener. So notice though that the page numbers are not listed on the bottom of this actual page. This because the level screener is a reproducible master. The first page of the level screener is the scoring worksheet. So that's what you're going to use to write on as the student reads from that second page that you see behind it, which is the student copy. That is what the students will read off of. So you're going to need, if every time you do a level screener with a student, you will print off one scoring worksheet for each student, but you probably only need one copy of the actual assessment, right? Because you'll be doing that assessment individually, one at a time. So level screeners are used when you have no idea where a student should start. And that happens sometimes, right? Next week, one day, there might be a little face at your door, a student who has just appeared, and no one knows anything about this student. And so that student, you might need to use that level screener because you have no idea where to start. So that is what the level screener is for, and it will be needed sometimes. Other times it's not going to be needed because you do know something about your student. Either you had him before, you have a colleague who had him before, so you know where to start. So let's look at level 1 assessment. Okay, now this is the assessment itself. The very first page here is the scoring worksheet, and then immediately behind it is the student copy. Okay, this is level 1. So just like the level screener, we've got scoring worksheet, student copy, and it starts with letter sounds. Okay, the following page is now another 2 pages of scoring worksheets for level 1. So the CVC words, long vowel, silent E, all the 1-syllable words, and then the 2 corresponding student copies of the actual assessment. All right, and again, we're going to go into this in depth in a minute. I'm just giving you an overview here, okay? So the next section of the document is the level 2 assessment. And just like before, we've got the scoring worksheet for the teacher to write on first, and at the back is after that is the student copies. I want you to notice that on the scoring worksheet, there's a place to put the student's name, the date, the teacher's name, and there's places for you to write in it. There's also actual scripts for how to give it. So it really is quite comprehensive, and it includes the information in the place that you will need it, meaning you're going to have the scoring worksheet during the assessment. And so the script is listed right in the document that you already have to have. Okay. Then the final section level or pages 17 through 20 of this document is just the level 3 assessment. So again, first 2 pages are the scoring worksheet, second 2 pages in that chunk are the student copy. Okay, so it's really not that heavy. It just includes all of the various assessments for all of the different levels. Okay, the final page, page 21, is a pronunciation guide. And so it lists how to pronounce it with examples of words. And for those of you who still, like myself, sometimes want to actually just hear it, if you'll notice, there's a little blue link up in the top part of the center where you can click on it, and it's an audio guide. So if you want to hear the correct pronunciation, just to verify that you're on the right page, or on the right sound rather, that is available to you too. So what I'm going to do quickly is just show you, I know you have access to it through the link that was provided for this presentation, but in case there's some of you who aren't sure how to find it within your program, I'm going to do that for you now. I'm going to log in as a staff member, just logging in as a teacher into this account, as you probably do on your own. I'm going to navigate through the upper left-hand corner where the picture of the house is. Click on that house, and down near the bottom in the middle, I have a tile that's marked Word Warm-Ups Live, right? There's also a drop-down menu you may know about in the upper left-hand corner. Selecting near the bottom, the Word Warm-Ups Live option will get you to the same place as this tile will. Okay. Notice that there is a blue button in the upper left-hand corner. It says Print Phonics Assessment. So you can click on that. And from here, you can print it on an actual printer. You can save it as a PDF, or you can just know that it lives here and you can access it whenever you want. Remember how I said these were hyperlinked? So if I want to go to the level screener, I click right on level screener and it brings me directly to the scoring sheet for the level screener and the student copy for the level screener. Okay, so just wanted you to see what that looks like. We also have the phonics scope and or word warm-ups live scope and sequence available from here. And notice that these open in new tabs. So I haven't logged out of my Read Live account. The first tab on the left is still me logged in to my Read Live account, but I have the next tab is scope and sequence and the assessment. Okay, so it's all right in there for you. All right, so let's head back into my PowerPoint now. And we're going to go back to page 1. Okay, I just gave you the overview. Now we're going to go in and dig in a little deeper. So on page 1, we can see that the very next section under table of contents says phonics options in Read Live. Okay, because Read Live actually has a few different options for students who have phonics needs. Okay, we have Word Warm-Ups Live, which of course teaches phonics and decoding. We also have Read Naturally Live Phonics series, which teaches early phonics skills, but in addition, it works on fluency and comprehension. Okay, so how do we know which one to use? When do we use Word Warm-Ups Live? When do we use the phonics series? How do we know when to place them? Okay, that is what we're going to talk about. So we have 2 tables that will help you guide this decision. So remember, we just had this phonics options and Read Live circled. Now we have which Read Live program is right for my student. You can see the first table on page 1, which again is the one that's circled in red. That's your starting point for determining which of the programs right for each kid. The second page, the top of the second page, that entire page is dedicated to help give you a recommendation based on really simple questions. 3 simple questions will help you determine which program to use for each student. So this table will help you select the right program. It will help you pick the right level or section within that program. Okay, so those first 2 pages are really helpful in helping you make that decision. All right, so let's walk through them together. Because when you come back to this on your own, I want you to really feel comfortable and feel like it's more of a refresher, like you've already done this. So let's dig in a little bit with program selection, placement, and goal. So we know that some students that we have need to work on fluency, right? They have fluency and comprehension issues as a result of fluency, but those are their primary issues. And so those students are going to work within Read Live. Those students will use Read Naturally Live, probably the sequence series or maybe the idiom series, right? Students who you aren't worried about anything with phonics, you're just worried about fluency, comprehension. Read Naturally Live is the program in the sequence series or idioms. Now, some kids, many kids, have struggles with both fluency and comprehension. I'm sorry, fluency and phonics, and also usually comprehension then. So those students who have fluency and phonics issues, many of them will be able to use Read Naturally Live Phonics series, okay? If they read at an early 1st or 2nd grade level and they struggle with fluency and phonics, they have a phonics need there, then they'll be able to work there. But some kids will need to use both. You need to use Read Naturally Live Sequence Series and Word Warm-Ups Live. Okay, and we'll talk about how to make that determination in a minute. And then there are some students who maybe just need phonics work, and those students would only use Word Warm-Ups Live. All right, so now we're going to dig into making the decisions about how to know which kid falls into which group. Okay, so on page 3 of the Word Warm-Ups Live Phonics Assessment, has some additional information that you can see it's outlined right here. Again, if you don't know what your students' phonics needs are, you're going to want to use the Word Warm-Ups Live Phonics Assessment, and you can always get it from your homepage. This assessment is really helpful because it assesses the student's phonics needs and the sections, and it's in the order in which they appear within Word Warm-Ups Live and Read Naturally Live Phonics series. Okay, so it's all listed in there for you. You don't have to memorize what level a certain skill is taught in. It is presented for you in this document. So again, the student's results on this assessment will determine if the student has phonics needs and what those phonics needs are, which word warm-ups life section is going to meet those phonics need, and whether the student can work on fluency and phonics together within Read Naturally Live Phonics series, or if they need to work on them apart. And I know this is a lot of scenarios, so we're going to practice each one. And I'm going to give you a little example of a lab that Read Naturally runs near our school. And we have students who work in 2nd through, let's say, 6th grade in that building. 2nd graders, almost all of the 2nd graders read at a 1st or 2nd grade level, and they have phonics needs. And most of those 2nd graders and many of the 3rd graders will end up in a Read Naturally Live Phonics series because their fluency needs and phonics needs are at those lower levels, and that works because we have phonics levels available at those readability levels. But when we work with students in 5th grade or 6th grade, some of those students have phonics needs too, right? But oftentimes those students can read at a mid-3rd or 4th grade reading level. We don't have phonics levels available in Read Naturally Live at that high of a level. So those older kids use both programs. Okay, so that's just an example to kind of visualize, and we're going to walk through those examples here in a minute. So still on page 3 of the Word Warm-Ups Live Phonics Assessment, I want you to notice there's a part that's called assessment preparation. And this section will help you determine which part or parts of the assessment to administer. So level screener, level 1 assessment, level 2 assessment, level 3 assessment, and so forth. So if you have a new face and you have no idea who they are or what they can do, you're going to use that level screener. Okay. The level screener will give you the information like, oh, I don't have to do level 1 assessment. I can go right to the level 2. It'll tell you which of the 3 levels to start at. But if you already know something about the student and you know that that student knows all of their 1-syllable words or knows none of their 1-syllable words, and you're going to start with the level 1 because you know that they're still struggling with those words. And if they're if you have a student who you know has mastered all the 1-syllable words and you know that probably where they start to struggle is where you get into those 2-syllable words, then you can skip the level screener and you can skip level 1 assessment and you can start right at the level 2 assessment. Okay, so those kids who you know something about, trust your gut and you can minimize, you can reduce how many assessments you need to give based on what you know. And then of course, same goes for level 3, right? If you know the student does pretty well until they get into those really big words. And then you can just start with the level 3 assessment. Okay, so the next thing you need to do is gather your materials. And there's a section that says what to gather. Okay, so I have it circled in red here and then written large here on the left right-hand side now. So what you're going to need is the scoring worksheet, which is right within that document within the assessment. And you're going to need the student copy. Okay, and on the scoring worksheet, it gives you all the information you're going to need. It gives you the script in order to administer it. It tells you which section and level aligns with where they end up struggling. So all of that is right on that worksheet. So at the bottom of page 3, you'll notice this note, and it's just telling you that the directions about how to record the students' responses. Okay, how to write, whether they got an error or maybe it was a self-correction. It also tells you how to calculate the scores for each section and how to determine whether or not you should stop there or if you should go on to the next section. So do they know that section well enough that we should go on to the next one? Because I don't think they need to have lessons on that. Or do they have so much trouble with that section that we're going to stop there because they need to work in that section? Okay. So all of that is in that first administrative guide. So let's walk through the phonics assessments together. Now on page 15 of your handout, I'm pretty sure it's page 15. Yep. Page 15 of the handout, not the phonics assessment or the scope and sequence, but the actual handout for this presentation, page 15 has this little checklist. I love checklists, mostly because I like crossing things off. And will admit that sometimes I write things on my checklist that I have already done so that I can start with a partially completed checklist. So this is a little checklist you can print off for yourself so that you can have it next to you. You might lean on it pretty heavily the first couple times you do it, and then you're probably not going to need it. These steps, step 1, read the examiner script to the student. These steps are also listed within the assessment directions. See, step 1, read the examiner script to the student. They're just more in depth. They feel a little more overwhelming because look how text heavy this page is. And look how not text heavy this page is, right? But they line up with each other. So if you think, well, what is the examiner script? I don't know what it is. Don't worry. It's right on that for you. Okay. So step 2 is to record the students' responses on the worksheet. So you're going to look at the table. It tells you how to record them, right? If you take a look at this table, it says whether or not to mark it with a check, what to circle. If they read it correctly, you put a check box. If the student makes a mistake, then you circle the word error and you write what the student actually said on the line. Because sometimes you're gonna catch patterns, right? If you do that, then you'll notice that it says SC and SD, slowly decoded, or self-correction. So if a student reads the word incorrectly but corrects themselves without you giving them the answer, that's a slightly different thing, right? That's what we call a self-correction. Okay. Now, you are going to want the student to read one word at a time. And the script tells you that. Okay. Because the student, the script says, read one word and wait until I say next to read the next word, because you're going to need a minute to record how the student does. And so, and again, don't worry, you don't have to memorize, you have to say that. It's written in that script for you. Okay. Now, calculate the score at the end of each section. So you are going to calculate how the student did. And it tells you how to do that in this little table, right? Step 4 is to determine whether to continue testing, or if the student does well enough, if you should stop testing. So if the student had too much trouble in this section, that means the student needs to work in that section, right? And then the final step 5 is to select placement and goals. So you're going to assign them the right section and goal. So all the information you need to perform this assessment is laid out simply right here in the assessment directions page. Okay, so it's page 4. And don't worry, we're still going to walk through a couple. So you're still going to get an opportunity to practice. All right. So here's our first student. Her name's Marcy. And Marcy reads below a 3rd grade level. And we know that she has difficulty decoding 1-syllable words. So with this knowledge, are you going to give her the level screener? She's a 3rd grade student. She struggles with decoding 1-syllable words. I don't need to give her the level screener. I know I'm going to start in level 1 assessment, right? So I can skip that level screener, save myself a minute or two, and go directly to phonics assessment level 1. So here again, we have Marcy and we have these 2 documents that we need to perform, right? We always have that checklist that we have that includes those 5 steps, but we need these 2 sheets too. We need the student copy for Marcy to read off of, and we need the scoring worksheet for the teacher to write on. So we've gathered the materials we need for level 1 assessment, because we know that she's a beginning reader. We know she knows her letter sounds, so I don't have to worry about letter sounds. I'm going to start with level 1, section B through I, which starts with CVC words. Okay, so I'm going to give Marcy this assessment, and I'm going to tell Marcy to direct her eyes to level 1, section C, because we're going to assume that I know that Marcy knows her CVC words. She knows all of her short vowels. She starts to struggle when she gets to those long vowel words. Okay, so I'm going to even skip parts of this assessment because I have that knowledge about Marcy. So I'm going to ask Marcy to read the words on her scoring worksheet. I'm going to say, after you read a word, wait until I tell you to read the next word. right? And I'm going to have my scoring assessment worksheet, scoring worksheet, and I'm going to direct my eyes to the same section that Marcy has, right? So this is aligns with what Marcy does. Okay. We are going to have Marcy read off of this assessment, and we are going to score it. Okay. So I want you to either pull up a scoring worksheet or just grab a piece of paper. If you don't have it printed off, you can just grab a piece of paper on your desk. And what we're going to have you do is I'm going to pretend I'm Marcy, and I'm going to read these words, and you're going to score on whether or not I get them right or wrong. Okay. So here's what I would say. Step one, you would have indicated to Marcy which section to read, right? Section C. And you would read the script that's on your copy, the script that's on your scoring worksheet. And it would say, okay, Marcy. No, it won't say Marcy, but you know her name. So it'll say, look at the words. Most of them are not real words. Read each word to me. Wait to read each word until I say next. Okay. So now for step two, I'm going to be Marcy, and I want you to use the scoring worksheet. Or if you don't have it printed, you can, like I said, you can just mark it on a piece of paper. Remember, you're going to put a check mark if they got it correct. If they got an error, you're going to circle error, or if you just have your piece of paper, you could put the letter E, but then write what the student read so that you have record of that. And then we have, you can circle slowly decoded SD or slowly or self-corrected SC. Okay. I will pause between each word to give you just a moment to record it. But remember, in a real scenario, you as the teacher would tell the student when to go on to next. And I'm not going to do that, but I will pause. And when I read the next word, I'm going to assume that the teacher had told me to read the next word. Okay. So here we go. Record how I do. I am Marcy reading this. Case. Lib. Toop. Wane. Sime. Roof. Roop. Kale. Jove. Time. Mose. Okay. So now I'm going to reveal the answers. I want you to see if you got what I got or how I intended to read for Marcy. So case, Marcy read correctly. Lib was read correctly. Toop, Wayne, and Sime all were read correctly. Now roof was said roof first, but it was self-corrected, right? So first I said roof, then I corrected myself and said roof. So we're going to indicate what I said first and then I self-corrected, but I did get it correct on my own. So I also put that check there. Kale was read correctly, so was Jove. The word time, I said with an M instead. I said time. So that's an error. Mose was read correctly. Okay, so we're going to fill in how she did. She only had one actual error and she had one self-correction. That's a total score of 2. So look at what it tells us. It guides us. We don't have to memorize this. It's right here. It says if 3 or more errors or a total score of 6 or more, you're going to put her in this level and section. You're going to put her in level 1, section C, which is long vowel silent E. Or if the student also had fluency issues, you could put her in the phonics series of Read Naturally Live if she fit there. Okay. If not, keep testing. We are in this bottom group. Marcy didn't fit in here. She knew it well enough. She had, she's human. She made a couple of mistakes, but she knows this silent E well enough. So we're going to give her the next section. Okay. So in level 1, section D is long vowel pairs. And when we go through that with Marcy, we can see that she had 3 errors, 1 self-correction or slowly decoded, which is a total score of 4. It says if 3 or more errors, then I'm going to place her in level 1, section D. So I can stop here with Marcy. Marcy is going to work in level 1, section D of word warm-ups. Now, remember, page 21 has that pronunciation guide for you, okay? And again, remember, it's hyperlinked to the audio guide if you want to hear it, all right? So let's talk for a moment about program selection and placement, because Marcy was a straight up, she's going to work in Word Warm-Ups Live Level 1 Section D. I lost my train of thought for a moment. But this page 2 of the Word Warm-Ups Phonics assessment document is really awesome because it gives you these quick questions. Does the student need phonics work? Does the student need fluency work? And is she reading at or below a 3rd grade level? Okay, so then to the right, it tells you what you should do based on how you answer these. So for Marcy, we said at first, let's say we said yes. Then we said yes again. And then we said, if we said yes again, we could put her in Read Naturally Live Phonics series. But if we said yes, yes, no, we have a different recommendation. So based on how you answer these 3 questions, it will tell you what to do. Okay, so let's go back to Marcy and say she doesn't actually have fluency needs. We're only concerned about phonics. So if she has phonics needs, but no fluency needs, then we're going to put her in Word Warm-Ups Live only. Okay. So here are all of our options. Marcy was the student who only had phonics needs. So we put Marcy based on that second assessment that we discovered. Yep, section D is what she needed to work on. Because she only has phonics needs, I'm going to assign her Word Warm-Ups Live Level 1 Section D. Marcy's done. Okay. Now I'm going to demonstrate for you before I show you a couple other example students. I'm going to demonstrate for you how to assign Marcy the level and section. Okay, I'm going to go back to that home page and I'm going to go back to the section marked Word Warm-Ups Live. Right? I've got a list of all these students. I need to find Marcy. So if you're not familiar with this, we have sorting and filtering options. I know Marcy's name, so I'm going to click on her first name and enter Marcy and click apply, and then Marcy appears. Now, if you take your eyes and go over to the right-hand column, you'll see there's a, or right-hand side, you'll see there's a column marked WW Ups Access. There's nothing in there. So that means Marcy doesn't have access to Word Warm-Ups Live. So I need to give her access first. I'm going to select the box next to her name and click Add Word Warm-Ups Live Access. Now, by default, Word Warm-Ups Live assigns students Level 1 Section B, which is short vowels. So I'm going to need to edit. It says click the edit button to change the default assignment. Okay, so that's what I'm going to show you to do. So I'm going to click, okay, that's all right. Now I'm going to go further over to the right to the column marked assign. I will click edit. I do want Level 1, but I want Section D, and I'm going to leave her goal at 40 for now. I'm going to see how she does. Leave it at the default 40 and then take a look at how she does after the first few. So we'll click save and close. And now Marcy is in Level 1, Section D long vowels with a wordless goal of 40. Okay, so we've put Marcy in the spot that she needs to be put in. Now Ella is a little bit different because she's a 2nd grader, but she has struggles with phonics, but she also struggles with fluency. Okay, so let's figure out where she struggles with phonics. I know that she needs help decoding 1-syllable words, so I'm going to go right to the Level 1 assessment. And I see with Level 1 Section E, long vowels, not Section E, long vowel, silent E, it's Level 1 Section C. And Ella had 3 errors right off the bat. Okay, so I have an option to either put her in this Word Warm-Ups level, or notice the second bullet down says, or if student reads below 3rd grade level, which Ella does, I could use the Read Naturally Live testing level 1.5 to see if she can work in Read Naturally Live 1.3, which works on long vowel silent E. Okay, so it tells you right here what your options are. So if you know that Ella also struggles with fluency, you're going to give her the Read Naturally level testing 1.5, just like it says. use Read Naturally Level Testing Level 1.5 for possible placement in the Read Naturally Live Phonics Level 1.3a. Now look, when you give her that placement in Read Naturally Live, which there's a webinar on placement in Read Naturally Live if you want to watch that too, but when you go to give it to her, if she fits, so you give her level 1.5, she reads 45 words correct per minute, which is within this placement range. Look, it tells you what's available. You don't have to remember what that guide told you. It tells you right here. Look, you've got two phonics options, long vowel silent E or long vowel pairs. Okay. If Ella didn't struggle with phonics, you could put her in the sequence series, but Ella does. She struggles with long vowel silent E, so that's where I'm going to put her. So here's a table that demonstrates this. You don't have to memorize it. It's listed in the Word Warm-Ups Live assessment, and it's listed in Read Naturally Live placement, okay? So Ella is going to work in Read Naturally Live Phonics series, level 1.3, section A. She gets to work on fluency, phonics, comprehension, all in one spot, all within Read Naturally Live Phonics series, okay? So Marcy was all phonics, Ella's both, and she reads at a low enough level that she can do both within Read Naturally Live. Evan is a 5th grader who reads at a mid-3rd grade level. He struggles with both fluency and decoding level 2. I mean, decoding 2-syllable words. So I'm going to give him level 2, right? Again, this tends to be students who are a little older. Their fluency needs and phonics needs don't line up as well usually. So when I give Evan this assessment, we find out right away, yep, section F in level 2 he needs to work on. He gets 5 errors off the bat. Notice that the recommendation does not include anything about Read Naturally Live because there's not a level that high. So he has fluency and phonics needs. He's reading at a mid-3rd grade level. He's going to need to work in Read Naturally Live for his fluency needs. He can work in Word Warm-Ups Live for his phonics needs and Read Naturally Live for fluency. When we give him that level in the Read Naturally Live placement, we can see there's not a phonics option listed, right? So again, we don't have to know it. It's going to let us know whether or not it's there. So we'll put him in the sequence series. Notice we have idioms and sequence options at the mid-3rd, but no phonics option. So Evan will work in level 2, section F, as well as 3.5 of Read Naturally Live. All right. So oftentimes we can have students work in both when they're younger. As they get a little older, it's much more likely if they have both phonics and fluency needs that they will need both programs. And when that happens, there's a couple different ways you can handle it. So if you have a little bit longer intervention block, so let's say you have 35, 45, 30, 40, 50 minutes, over 30. So 35 or more minutes in your intervention block. You could set a timer for 10 minutes, and everyone who's using Word Warm-Ups Live and Read Naturally Live, they would spend the first 10 minutes in Word Warm-Ups Live. When the bell goes off your timer, all those kids would switch over to Read Naturally Live. That works really well if you have a longer intervention block. Now, they are going to finish at different steps within each section or story. They're not going to finish the story when the bell rings each time. That would be lovely, but it doesn't happen that way in the real world. And that's just fine. They can pick up where they left off the next day. Not a problem at all. Same with Read Naturally Live. They can, wherever they leave off, they log out. When they come back the next day, they can pick up. Now, if you have shorter intervention blocks, 20, 25, 30 minutes, you probably can't, it's probably kind of tight to get both of them in. So then I recommend changing after a pass. So when a student passes a story within Read Naturally Live, then they switch over and start a word list in Word Warm-Ups Live. When they pass a word list exercise in Word Warm-Ups Live, then they can head back in to Read Naturally Live. So that's how you can do that. On our help page, we do have an entire section that is dedicated to working with students in Word Warm-Ups Live. Okay, so feel free to look at that. Also, feel free to call us, to email us. That's why we're here. So our phone number and our email are listed on this slide. Please reach out to us with questions and concerns. Thank you for being here. I am very grateful to all that you do for your students. Clearly, you are very dedicated. This time of year is very busy, and for you to sit and listen to this training to learn something that will help your kids says a lot. So thank you. Please connect with us as needed and have a wonderful rest of your day.